What's up, guys? Ben here bringing you another video today. It is now Monday the 22nd. I'm recording this in the morning. We're going to go ahead and walk through some Rostermania news that happened over the weekend, specifically on Sunday. We have a bunch of new teams that are starting to form. While we haven't gotten official announcements about these squads, they're coming from pretty reputable sources. So let's talk about these potential teams, what we think. We're also going to talk about the FaZe situation. It doesn't seem like yet that they've made a decision on who they're picking up, but let's talk about who I think they should go after and some of the news around that on some of the players they may have already talked about. Let's dive in. A couple of tweets came across early evening last night. It seems like Arcitys has finally moved on to a new squad. He'll be joining Los Angeles Guerrillas, and it seems like they are going to run back a trio of players that they finished the season with, Luke, Sport, and Neptune, and they're going to replace Austin with Alec. I think personally, my opinion on this is I'm a little mixed. I think I gotta agree with my boy Pat here with the GIF. So I think, look, here's my personal opinion. Because you gotta keep in mind, they still have Austin under contract. They still have Asim under contract for now. Although it looks like Asim might be looking for a new team. I'm a little surprised that they're running it back with this trio plus Alec. To me, I see the potential, especially with Hook and Neptune as a sub duo. But I was not a fan of the roster change that they made going into Major 4 when they dropped Asim, brought in Neptune, took Pierce out, put Spart back in, because they didn't look particularly good in Major 4. I know Austin played well, but the rest of the team really struggled. My thing with this is I think it puts a lot of stress and pressure on Alec and whoever their new coach is going to be to really get the best out of the three players on this team. I think there are players that can play well, but are they a team that's going to be consistently good all season? I think that's the biggest question to me. And I personally don't really think at the moment that I have a lot of confidence that they're going to be able to do that. Like, we take a look at their stage 4 record with the, that Alec squad, but instead of Alec, you had Austin, and they're basically playing 500 ball, and that wasn't really good enough for them to qualify for champs. And really the whole year last year, outside of their success at Major 2 in Minnesota, was really a mixed bag. So I'm a little confused on running this trio back. Shout out Breaking Point for this cool tool to be able to pull up some of his roster stuff for you. If we take a look at the stats for these players last season, like, it's not the most inspiring from a slaying standpoint. I think just this team strikes me as A, like a little inconsistent, and B, I wonder if this is going to be a organization, a team that is looking to maybe make changes throughout the season and get to a better spot at the end of the season. But I'm a little surprised. If it's for me, to be honest, if I'm not bringing in any extra players, I probably would have done this combo instead. Because if you're going to run it back with players from last season, I think this probably gets your highest ceiling. But it's their decision. We will see how this goes. The knockdown effects of this obviously are Asim's now looking for a new team. So we're going to see where he gets linked to. Obviously, very talented player. At times, has been up and down, but we know that what he brings from a leadership standpoint, he's had some good results over the last 2 years. I think he's definitely now going to shuffle a lot of teams' potential options because he's such a good sub player. And obviously we got to talk about Austin, and this gets into the FaZe thing, right? So it seems like Reddit is like, oh, well, if Alec is running it with the trio that Austin finished the end of the season with, is Austin just going to swap teams with Alec? I can see it. I mean, FaZe has been linked to a lot of players. There was a lot of conversation last night that they're picking up sibilants from Seattle. Obviously, there's been some chatter that they're picking up potentially Pred. We had this CDL Scrim Intel tweet this morning that a couple of teams have been interested in Insight, including FaZe Clan, Atlanta FaZe. My only thing with Jamie, though, but we'll go situation by situation. The thing with Jamie, aka Insight, is like, I don't really see the Toronto wanting to sell him. So if he wants to leave the FaZe, he would have to make that move happen on his own. If we're talking about like Pred and we're talking like sibilants, I don't know if Sib or Pred are going to be able to get out of that situation, again, without trying to ask to leave. But I do think it's theoretically gettable. The Austin situation is probably the easiest for them, because I think at this point, obviously LAG are going to sell. They already just did business with Atlanta FaZe. If I'm FaZe, I kind of like the pairing with Austin. It is a little bit of a like for like. If you think about it at a macro level, right? What does Alec bring to a team like this? What does Slasher bring to a team like this? They're similar things. I think Austin had the better season last year. If we look at Austin's numbers here, like, quietly had a really good season of Respawn. The S&D KD is wild. He had a 1-2. Obviously, KD's not everything, but he is impactful, getting 3/4 of a kill around. So, I mean, to me, if you're FaZe and, theoretically, if you try to make it work with Alec and it wasn't working and you wanted to swap and get something similar in, Austin's not a bad pickup. Obviously, he's got some chemistry already with the coaching staff. He did team up with Crowder on 100 Thieves back in Black Ops 4, and they did win back-to-back chips. So I think Austin's gonna, be a little bit more vocal than Alec is. But from my understanding, Austin's really tried to work on being a better teammate over the last 12 months. He obviously was in that Thief situation and got dropped, and some of that seemed to be sort of his mentality and the way he had conducted himself on the team. So I think he learned a lot from the situation. So look, I think if you're FaZe, There's really no bad routes here. Like if you go with this team with Dante, that's a good squad. If you go on this team with Pred, that's a good squad. And if somehow you pull this move off and you get Jamie inside off of Toronto, that's a good move. So curious to see what FaZe does. They've got a lot of good pats here. I think they're independent of a lot of other moves. Now they've gotten Alec and some of the dominoes on other sides of Rostermania starting to fall. We're curious to see over the next week or so, you know, who do they want to pick up as their fourth? Do they get it done? And do we get it announced sooner rather than later? Let's talk a little bit about Boston. So it seems like Big Wake is now a part of the squad with Nero and Vivid. Very interesting trio, high ceiling trio. There's a lot of pace there. Big Wake gets into a way better situation in Boston with a lot of speed. So I really like this for Wake. It seems like based on what Intel, aka Chrome, replied later that night that, you know, they're not deciding who they want their fourth is. Technically, Zinni, aka Methods, is still under contract with the team. My guess is they're probably looking at other AR options, and if they can't find one, they're just going to run it back with Zen. Like if you look at this team on paper, right, it's actually not that bad. You know, I think Nero and Reese's numbers are a little misleading. My concern with this team, I think, is S&D's a weaker game mode. Boston team really struggled in S&D after they picked up Reese Vivid. So they would have to get better in that game mode. You can't just be a respawn start team. Like you're just going to lose tough game fives if you don't have that bread and butter S&D in your bag. But for the Boston project of like trying to improve over time, I don't mind this move. I mean, your routes of going different directions with Zen is you can try and get Austin on your team instead of Methods, and then maybe improves your S&D. I think though, from a personality fit, this one's a little bit trickier than Zen. You know, Austin like has obviously become a better teammate as I discussed earlier in this video, but this seems like a vibe squad to me. And so Austin would need to be very cognizant of how he approaches criticism on this team. And the coaching staff of, you know, Zed and Denz will probably need to help with that. But I like the potential here. The numbers are going to be a little bit messed up because of how bad Clay played this season, but I can see them thinking about this. Again, same thing as Austin. Clay's got to be a little bit careful conduct wise, but I could see it. Personally, for me, I think what's going to happen is they're going to check through all options. Boston's going to do their due diligence. I think you start off the season with Zen. I do think that you probably want to make sure that you're picking up or have an access to a sub. If you feel like the Zen fit isn't there, that you want to go with the Challengers AR and really commit to a younger team, you can do that down the line. But I personally would probably run it back with Zen. This would be a really interesting squad on paper. And if they get ahead early, guys, watch out because this team's dynamic enough that if they can master the game early, they may be very good to start off and then ride their momentum through most of the season. So that's the video for now. I think we're going to get more updates throughout the day. And if anything breaks, obviously, I'll turn on my stream or we'll chat about it. I think we're recording an episode of The Flank tonight, which might be live by the time this video goes up. As always, guys, let me know what you think in the comments. You like some of these teams? What do you think of the situation in LAG? What should FaZe do? What do you like for Boston? I mean, I didn't talk about players like Gunless or Priesta or any other kind of like other players that can play main AR. There are a lot of ways Boston could go down, but let me know what you think of that potential Boston lineup. If you think they should keep Zen, if you think they should move on. As always, if you like my videos, smash that like button. And as always, subscribe to my channel. We'll be pushing out content left, right, and center as we get through Rostermania. We get to the off season, get to the beginning of the season. I'm excited to bring new and different content to you guys, so be on the lookout for that. And as always, guys, we will see you on the next one.